Picture this: the most independent, self-reliant man you know, the one who walks alone, needs no validation, and seems untouchable by emotional chaos, suddenly finds himself genuinely caring about another person. What happens next might surprise you, and it definitely challenges everything society thinks it knows about the Sigma male archetype. Welcome back to Official Sigma Male, where we dive deep into the psychology and reality of authentic masculine independence. If you're new here, you're about to discover insights that mainstream relationship advice completely misses. And if you're a returning subscriber, you know we don't deal in surface-level content. We explore the depths of what it truly means to operate as a Sigma male in every aspect of life. Today, we're tackling one of the most complex and misunderstood aspects of the Sigma experience. What happens when a man who has mastered self-sufficiency encounters someone who genuinely matters to him? This isn't about pick-up strategies or dating games. This is about the profound internal shift that occurs when authentic care enters the Sigma's world. The Sigma male's relationship with emotional attachment is fundamentally different from what most people understand. While alphas compete for attention and betas seek approval, Sigmas have learned to find completeness within themselves. But when genuine care emerges, for a romantic partner, a close friend, or even a family member, it creates a unique psychological dynamic that deserves serious exploration. Over the next 6 chapters, we'll dissect exactly what this transformation looks like, why it happens, and how it affects every aspect of a Sigma's life. From the initial resistance to vulnerability, to the evolution of protective instincts, to the delicate balance between independence and connection. We'll cover it all with the depth and authenticity you've come to expect from this channel. If you've ever wondered why the Sigma in your life seems to care so intensely yet so quietly, or if you're a Sigma yourself trying to understand these unfamiliar emotional territories, this video will provide the clarity you've been seeking. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, because content like this, honest, research-backed, and genuinely useful, is exactly what we're building this community around. 1. The internal resistance revolution. The moment a Sigma male realizes he genuinely cares about someone, his first instinct isn't celebration, it's resistance. This isn't emotional immaturity or fear of commitment in the traditional sense. It's something far more complex, the psychological conflict between years of cultivated independence and the emergence of genuine emotional investment. Understanding this resistance is crucial because it reveals the depth of the Sigma's self-awareness. Unlike other personality types who might rush headlong into emotional connections or desperately seek validation through relationships, the Sigma recognizes that caring about someone fundamentally alters his decision-making matrix. Every choice he makes will now be filtered through the lens of how it affects this person who matters to him. This recognition triggers what I call the independence audit, a subconscious evaluation where the Sigma examines all the ways that caring might compromise his autonomy. He's not afraid of the person. He's processing the implications of emotional investment on his carefully constructed life philosophy. For years, he's operated from a position where his happiness, success, and peace of mind depended solely on his own actions and decisions. Now, suddenly, someone else's well-being has become a variable in his personal equation. The resistance manifests in several distinct ways. First, there's the analytical phase, where the Sigma attempts to logic his way out of caring. He'll enumerate all the reasons why emotional attachment is inefficient, potentially problematic, or simply unnecessary. This isn't cold-heartedness. It's his mind trying to protect a system that has served him well. He might find himself creating mental arguments about why independence is superior, why relationships are complications, or why he's better off maintaining emotional distance. Second comes the testing phase. The Sigma will unconsciously create situations to test both the durability of his feelings and the other person's authenticity. This might look like periods of withdrawal, challenges to see if the person will respect his need for space, or subtle tests of character and integrity. He's not playing games, he's conducting due diligence on an investment that could fundamentally reshape his life approach. The third phase involves bargaining with himself about boundaries. The Sigma will attempt to compartmentalize his care, trying to set limits on how much this person can affect his decisions, routines, or priorities. He might tell himself things like, "I can care about them without changing my lifestyle," or "I'll invest emotionally but maintain complete independence in practical matters." These internal negotiations reveal the Sigma's attempt to honor both his feelings and his foundational need for autonomy. What makes this resistance particularly intense for Sigmas is their acute self-awareness. They recognize that genuine care isn't something that can be easily controlled or compartmentalized. They understand, perhaps better than other personality types, that emotional investment creates vulnerability, not just to heartbreak, but to having their decisions influenced by factors outside their direct control. The revolution aspect comes from the gradual realization that this resistance itself might be limiting his growth. The Sigma begins to understand that perhaps his definition of strength needs to evolve. Maybe true independence isn't about emotional isolation, but about having the security and confidence to choose connection when it adds genuine value to his life. This internal struggle can last weeks, months, or even years, depending on the Sigma's past experiences and the significance of the person who's captured his attention. The resolution comes not from abandoning his independence, but from redefining it in a way that includes the capacity for deep, selective emotional investment. The Sigma who successfully navigates this internal resistance revolution emerges with a more sophisticated understanding of both himself and what authentic strength looks like. He learns that caring deeply about someone doesn't diminish his independence. It demonstrates his confidence in his own emotional security and his ability to choose connection from a position of strength rather than need. 2. Protective instincts awakened. When a Sigma male moves beyond internal resistance and accepts that he genuinely cares about someone, something primal awakens within him, an intense protective instinct that operates on multiple levels. This isn't the territorial aggression often associated with alpha personalities, nor is it the anxious worry typical of beta protection. This is strategic, calculated, and incredibly comprehensive protection that extends far beyond physical safety. The Sigma's protective instincts emerge from his analytical nature and his deep understanding of how the world actually works. He spent years observing human behavior, recognizing patterns, and developing an almost supernatural ability to read situations and people. When someone matters to him, all of this observational intelligence gets focused like a laser on ensuring their well-being. First, there's the environmental protection layer. The Sigma becomes hyper-aware of potential threats in his person's environment. Not just obvious dangers, but subtle manipulations, toxic relationships, and situations that could cause emotional or psychological harm. He'll quietly assess the people in their life, identifying who adds value and who might be detrimental. This isn't controlling behavior, it's intelligence gathering. The Sigma rarely interferes directly unless absolutely necessary, but he's always monitoring. Consider this example. If his person mentions a co-worker who seems to undermine their confidence, the Sigma won't typically march into their workplace demanding justice. Instead, he'll help them develop strategies for handling the situation, provide perspective on the co-worker's likely motivations, and ensure they have the tools and confidence to navigate the challenge independently. His protection enhances their strength rather than replacing it. The second layer involves opportunity protection, safeguarding not just against harm, but ensuring they don't miss out on growth, advancement, or happiness due to self-doubt or external obstacles. The Sigma becomes invested in their success and fulfillment in ways that might surprise people who see him as purely self-focused. He'll use his network, his knowledge, and his resources to create opportunities or remove barriers, often without them even knowing he's involved. Financial protection represents another crucial aspect. The Sigma understands that financial security provides options and reduces vulnerability. He'll ensure that the person he cares about has access to resources, knowledge about financial management, and backup plans for various scenarios. This might involve anything from sharing investment strategies to quietly ensuring they have emergency funds available. His approach is always about empowerment and education rather than dependency creation. Perhaps most importantly, the Sigma provides emotional and psychological protection. He becomes a fortress of stability in their life, someone who offers perspective when they're overwhelmed, clarity when they're confused, and unwavering support when they're doubting themselves. His naturally calm demeanor and analytical thinking become tools for helping them navigate life's challenges with greater confidence. The Sigma's protective instincts also extend to protecting the relationship itself. He becomes vigilant about external forces that might threaten their connection, whether that's family members who don't understand their dynamic, friends who might encourage poor decisions, or societal pressures that could create unnecessary stress. He'll work to create a protective bubble around the relationship, ensuring it has the space and conditions needed to thrive. What distinguishes Sigma protection from other types is its subtlety and respect for autonomy. The Sigma doesn't want to create dependence. He wants to ensure independence. His protection often works behind the scenes, removing obstacles and creating conditions where the person he cares about can thrive on their own terms. They might not even realize the extent of his protective efforts because he's careful not to undermine their sense of personal capability. This protective instinct also includes protecting them from his own potential negative impact. The Sigma is self-aware enough to recognize when his intensity, his need for solitude, or his direct communication style might be overwhelming or hurtful. He'll modify his approach, create appropriate boundaries, and ensure that his care enhances their life rather than complicating it. The awakening of these protective instincts represents a fundamental shift in how the Sigma allocates his mental and emotional resources. Energy that was previously focused entirely on his own goals and well-being now includes another person's flourishing as a priority. This isn't sacrifice, it's expansion of what he considers worth protecting and nurturing. 3. The vulnerability paradox. The Sigma male faces a fascinating contradiction when he truly cares about someone. The very act of caring creates vulnerability, yet expressing that vulnerability authentically often requires a level of emotional courage that surpasses traditional masculine expectations. This creates what I call the vulnerability paradox. The Sigma must become vulnerable to truly protect what matters to him, yet his instinct is to maintain the emotional fortress that has served him so well. Traditional masculine programming suggests that vulnerability equals weakness, but the Sigma's analytical mind quickly recognizes this as flawed logic. He understands that refusing to acknowledge his emotional investment actually creates greater risk. If he pretends not to care, he can't effectively protect what matters to him. If he denies the significance of the relationship, he can't make the strategic decisions necessary to nurture and preserve it. The paradox intensifies because caring deeply about someone means accepting that his emotional state is now partially influenced by factors outside his direct control. The person he cares about can hurt him, not through malicious intent necessarily, but simply by making choices that cause him concern, by struggling with challenges he can't fix, or by potentially leaving his life. This reality conflicts with the Sigma's preference for self-contained emotional systems. However, the Sigma's approach to vulnerability is characteristically unique. Rather than the dramatic emotional displays often associated with vulnerability, the Sigma tends to express his care through actions, consistency, and selective sharing. His vulnerability shows up as reliability, being consistently present when needed, following through on commitments, and creating stability in the other person's life, even when his own world is chaotic. The Sigma's vulnerability often manifests as increased transparency about his thoughts and decision-making processes. Where he might typically keep his reasoning private, he begins sharing his perspective, his concerns, and his plans with the person he cares about. This sharing isn't emotional dumping, it's strategic inclusion. He's allowing them to understand how his mind works, which is actually one of the most intimate gifts a Sigma can offer. Consider this practical example. A Sigma who typically makes career decisions based purely on personal optimization might now discuss potential job changes with his person, considering how the decision affects not just his goals, but their shared future. He's not seeking permission or approval. He's including them in his decision matrix because their well-being has become part of his success equation. The physical aspect of vulnerability presents another layer of complexity. The Sigma may find himself more affected by physical separation than he's ever experienced. Business trips that were once welcomed opportunities for solitude might now feel like unwanted disruptions. This physical vulnerability to absence reveals the depth of the emotional connection in ways that surprise the Sigma himself. Sleep patterns often become another indicator of the vulnerability paradox. The Sigma who has always slept soundly, confident in his ability to handle whatever tomorrow might bring, might find himself lying awake, thinking about the other person's challenges, planning solutions to their problems, or simply wanting to ensure they're safe and content. This mental preoccupation represents a fundamental shift from his typically self-contained thought processes. The Sigma also becomes vulnerable to a new type of failure, relationship failure. For most of his life, his success or failure has been entirely within his control. He's succeeded or failed based on his own decisions, efforts, and capabilities. Now, he's invested in something that requires another person's participation and cooperation. No matter how perfectly he handles his side of the relationship, it could still fail due to factors beyond his influence. This vulnerability to relationship failure often triggers intense strategic thinking. The Sigma begins developing contingency plans, not because he expects failure, but because having plans helps him feel more in control of an inherently uncertain situation. He might find himself thinking about how to handle various scenarios, from minor disagreements to major life changes that could affect the relationship. Perhaps the most profound aspect of the vulnerability paradox is how it changes the Sigma's relationship with emotional pain. Previously, emotional pain was typically brief and self-contained. Disappointment over a failed project, frustration with incompetent people, or annoyance at inefficient systems. Now, he's vulnerable to a deeper, more persistent type of emotional pain tied to another person's well-being and the relationship's health. The resolution of this paradox comes through the Sigma's recognition that vulnerability, when chosen consciously and strategically, actually enhances rather than diminishes his power. By acknowledging his emotional investment, he can make better decisions. By accepting the risks inherent in caring deeply, he can take appropriate protective measures. By embracing the vulnerability, he can experience the full depth of connection that makes the risks worthwhile. 4. Selective investment strategy. When a Sigma male genuinely cares about someone, his approach to investment becomes laser-focused and strategic. This isn't about being calculating. It's about applying his natural analytical skills to ensure his emotional and practical resources create maximum positive impact for someone who has proven worthy of his attention. The selectivity begins with worthiness recognition. The Sigma doesn't invest in energy drains or people who consistently make poor decisions despite good advice. When he finds someone worth caring about, they've demonstrated qualities that align with his values: integrity, intelligence, and growth capacity. This person has earned his investment through character, not manipulation or need. Once committed, his investment becomes remarkably comprehensive. Time investment follows a unique pattern. While maintaining his need for solitude, he restructures his schedule to include quality, meaningful interactions. This isn't constant contact, but intentional connection during important moments. He creates space for deep conversations and genuine presence when it matters most. The Sigma invests his problem-solving capabilities with the same intensity he applies to his own critical projects. Their challenges become puzzles worth solving, their goals become outcomes worth strategizing. He shares resources, provides mentorship, and creates opportunities for their development, always aimed at enhancing their capabilities rather than creating dependence. His carefully cultivated network becomes available to benefit them. Professional connections, introductions, recommendations, his social capital gets deployed strategically to advance their interests. This represents significant investment, as the Sigma typically guards his network carefully and only makes introductions when he's confident in both parties' value. Financial investment, when appropriate, reflects practical long-term thinking. This might involve contributing to their stability, education, or opportunities, not flashy displays, but strategic support that improves their future prospects and quality of life. Perhaps most significantly, he invests emotional energy in truly understanding them at a depth he rarely bothers with for others. He learns their patterns, preferences, fears, and aspirations. This emotional intelligence investment allows him to provide more effective support and creates genuine intimacy. The investment includes protection of what he's building. He won't tolerate people or situations that consistently undermine the person he cares about. This might involve difficult conversations, boundary setting, or helping them recognize self-destructive patterns. What makes this strategy powerful is its sustainability. Because the Sigma is selective and strategic, his investment doesn't lead to burnout. He's chosen someone who adds value while benefiting from his support, creating a positive feedback loop where both people thrive. 5. The loyalty transformation. When a Sigma decides someone is worth his care, loyalty undergoes a profound transformation that goes beyond conventional understanding. This becomes conscious, strategic, and incredibly durable loyalty based on genuine value recognition and deep respect. The transformation begins with a fundamental priority shift. Previously, decisions were filtered through personal optimization alone. While these factors remain important, they're now balanced against the well-being of the person he cares about. This isn't sacrifice, it's expansion of what he considers worth protecting. This loyalty manifests in unwavering consistency of support. The Sigma becomes someone they can count on during challenges, failures, and difficult periods. His support doesn't waver based on their circumstances or temporary setbacks. They know that regardless of what happens, he'll remain in their corner with practical support and sound advice. Communication patterns transform as well. While typically private with thoughts and feelings, he becomes strategically transparent with someone who's earned his care. This includes the courage to have challenging conversations that serve their long-term interests, even when uncomfortable. His loyalty compels him to speak truth, even when it might cause temporary displeasure. The Sigma becomes a vault for their confidences, protecting their privacy, reputation, and vulnerabilities. This creates a safe space for authentic expression without fear of judgment or betrayal. His naturally private nature extends to becoming their fortress of discretion. Professional and social advocacy emerges naturally. He recommends them for opportunities, defends their character when others criticize unfairly, and ensures their contributions receive appropriate recognition. This happens strategically, without fanfare or expectation of credit. Intellectual honesty defines his loyalty approach. He won't enable self-destructive behaviors or validate poor decisions for harmony's sake. His loyalty serves their highest good, not momentary comfort. This means challenging their thinking, questioning assumptions, or refusing to support harmful choices. Time becomes another loyalty expression. He prioritizes time with them, not from obligation, but because their connection adds genuine value. He might decline other opportunities to be available during important moments or restructure his schedule during their challenging periods. The Sigma's tolerance for others' mistreatment of this person dramatically decreases. While typically maintaining emotional distance from social dynamics, he becomes significantly less tolerant of anyone who disrespects or harms someone he cares about. This protective loyalty might involve direct intervention or ensuring they have resources to handle situations effectively. What makes Sigma loyalty particularly powerful is its foundation in choice rather than need. He chooses loyalty because he recognizes value, not from fear of abandonment or need for approval. This choice-based loyalty is incredibly stable and doesn't depend on external validation. 6. Independence redefined. The final transformation when a Sigma truly cares about someone is the redefinition of independence itself. This isn't abandoning self-reliance, but evolving it into a more sophisticated form that includes deep connection without compromising personal autonomy. Traditional independence often involves emotional isolation and complete self-containment, the belief that strength comes from needing no one. However, when genuine care emerges, the Sigma recognizes this definition might actually be a limitation rather than strength. Redefined independence begins with recognizing that choosing connection from strength is more powerful than avoiding connection from fear. The Sigma who maintains his core identity while deeply valuing another person demonstrates higher emotional mastery than one who must isolate to feel secure. Interdependence becomes embraceable without weakness. He understands that two strong, independent individuals can create something more powerful together than either could achieve alone without losing essential nature. This isn't codependence. It's conscious collaboration and mutual enhancement. Decision-making independence evolves to include consultation and consideration of another's perspective, not from inability to decide alone, but from wisdom and respect. The Sigma realizes that considering input often leads to better decisions, and involving someone he cares about actually enhances choice quality. Emotional independence transforms to include security strong enough to accommodate another person's influence on his mood and daily experience. Rather than seeing this as autonomy threat, he recognizes it as evidence of emotional maturity. A truly independent person can allow others to matter without losing himself. Physical independence evolves to include genuine comfort with proximity, affection, and shared space. The Sigma, who previously required complete physical autonomy, might find himself enjoying shared spaces and presence during personal time. The redefined independence includes emotional availability without emotional dependence. He learns to be present for someone's emotional needs while maintaining his own stability and center. He can offer support without taking on their emotional state or losing his objectivity. This evolution represents the Sigma's ultimate mastery, the ability to choose connection consciously while maintaining the core strength and self-possession that defines his nature. Independence becomes not about isolation, but about having the security to connect deeply when someone proves worthy of that connection. The transformation reveals that true independence isn't about needing no one. It's about being so secure in yourself that you can choose to need someone without losing your essential nature. This represents the highest form of Sigma evolution, powerful enough to stand alone, secure enough to choose not to. When a Sigma male truly cares about someone, it's not a weakness, it's an evolution. Throughout these 6 chapters, we've explored how genuine care transforms the Sigma experience without compromising the core independence that defines this archetype. From the initial internal resistance to the ultimate redefinition of what independence means, caring deeply becomes another form of Sigma mastery. The Sigma who cares is not the Sigma who becomes dependent. Instead, he becomes more strategic, more protective, more selective, and ultimately more powerful in his choices. This transformation challenges the misconception that emotional investment equals weakness or that independence requires isolation. Understanding this dynamic is crucial, whether you're a Sigma navigating these waters yourself or someone trying to understand the Sigma in your life. The depth of Sigma care is rare, intentional, and incredibly powerful when it emerges. This is the kind of insight that separates surface-level content from genuine understanding. If this resonated with you, subscribe to Official Sigma Male and join a community that values depth over quick fixes, authenticity over trends, and real psychological insight over empty motivation. We're building something different here. Content that actually serves the thinking man's journey toward authentic self-mastery. Turn on notifications, because next week we're diving into another unexplored aspect of the Sigma experience that mainstream psychology completely misses. Until then, stay authentic, stay independent, and remember, true strength includes the capacity to care deeply when it matters.